Hi Virgo and Virgo rising. This is your January 2017 forecast. So January is said to be a very pleasurable, sociable, recreational month for you. And this is because of two factors. Firstly, the sun will be in the fifth house, the house of romance, pleasure, fun, and children. But also because Venus and Mars are going to be together in your seventh house. Now, this is excellent for personal relationships, for the start of a new romance, or for closeness and excitement within existing relationships. So let's look at these factors one by one. Your ruling planet Mercury is also retrograde for until the 8th of January in the 5th house, and this is very good for connecting with creative activities, looking for ways to get inspired, making artist dates. And for injecting a bit of fun and excitement into existing relationships if you are tied up. So finding ways, creative, fun ways to kind of connect with each other through games, through conversation, through activities that keep you both invested. So Mercury in the 5th, sometimes when it's retrograde, can mean running into old flames or connecting with old partners. But it's also, in general, and especially once it goes direct from the 5th, a really good placement for communicating your thoughts to others, to convey what's on your mind, to really express yourself, and you'll find that people are more responsive to you being you. And this is especially true with the sun in your 5th house, so very good placement for self-expression. So looking for mental stimulation, reading, writing, playing games, that sort of thing. So lots of social activities indicated for you this month with the sun in that house of fun. So the sun in the 5th is really where you want to express yourself creatively, emotionally. You're feeling more spontaneous, more likely to take risks. It's also a very good placement for connecting with children closely through recreational activities, so having fun with them. So this is the month where you want to do what you love as much as possible, at least until the 20th when the sun goes into your 6th house. So for the first 3 weeks, this favors fun interactions. It can be very good for new romance, especially with Venus and Mars in that 7th house. So Venus in the 7th, this is the best placement for love affairs, for relationships, for connecting with all significant other parties, even enemies. So if you need to make peace with someone, then use this placement of Venus to do so. So as I've said, a new love relationship can also occur with this placement, so it's going to favor fun, light-hearted connections. Professional relationships benefit too because you're charming, you show that you work well with others. Mars in the 7th, good for bringing up conflicts, in existing relationships in a constructive way, particularly with Venus here. So this is where you want to air your grievances. If you're unhappy with somebody, then you want to convey this to them. Mars and Venus together, it's really great for chemistry. So very good for those of you looking for a new relationship, or if you need to inject some passion into an existing one. So with Mars in the 7th, your energy is being applied to all kinds of partnerships in your life. It's getting your goals and their goals, kind of working together. So getting onto the same page with other people. So don't be afraid to have some arguments at this time. This can be a very good way for fostering teamwork and cooperation and making sure that you're on the same page. So let's look at the other transits this month. We've got the new moon on the 29th of December happening in your 5th house, and this energy is all about starting new projects, getting things off the ground, and runs for 2 weeks into January. So with the sun and moon conjunct Mercury, there's lots of conversations happening. There's sorting things out. Capricorn is very practical sign, so you're gathering information. With the moon and Mercury, you're deciding how you feel about things. So there's also a sextile to Mars in your 7th house of partnerships. So this is for you going to be about partnerships, about creative business projects, and making practical, actionable steps, to realize your goals in this regard. So the 1st of January, we have Mars conjuncting Neptune in the 7th, and this can be a little temporary hiccup. There could be some bad feeling between you and a partner. You perhaps one or both of you are feeling a bit off color. Partners could also be gloomy and irritable and a bit demoralized. So you'll want to encourage them to avoid Neptunian activities, excess of any kind, overindulgence, things that are going to make them feel even worse. So just try and temper this aspect or wait for this hiccup to pass. On the 3rd of January, Mercury sextiles Venus in your 7th house of relationships and Mercury in your 5th house. This is very good for feelings of love and friendship. With Mercury and Venus together, it's easy for you to express your feelings, to say what's in your mind and heart, so to communicate well with loved ones. So good for leisurely pursuits and fun conversations and activities with a loved one or a significant partner. So relax and enjoy this one. It should be very pleasant for you with this placement between the 5th and the 7th. So on the 7th, we've got the Sun conjuncting Pluto in your 5th house. This can show some intensity, perhaps with children, perhaps with a new romance. There can be some power struggles. Someone might want to try and dominate you, or you might try and dominate somebody else. This could just be fun, and this could just be insightful though. You know, if an issue comes up, you'll have clarity on it and you'll be able to tackle it quite productively. So on the 10th, we've got the Sun squaring Uranus from your 5th to your 8th house, and this can show some upsets in routine. You know, things can get a bit scrambled, unexpected developments may occur. You may find that you have to spend money on something you didn't anticipate. So, you know, this aspect can make one a bit more irritable and accident prone, so be a little bit more careful. On the 11th, we've got the Sun squaring Jupiter between your 5th and your 2nd house, and that energy carries over into the full moon. This is very good for getting creative personal business projects off the ground. It gives you an energy boost, you know, so you can push through, get something started. So you can take on quite a lot and, you know, maybe a little bit more than you bargained on, so don't go overboard. But this is very good for getting things off the ground. Now that full moon has that same aspect between the Sun and the Moon and Jupiter, and for you this is going to be in the 11th house of friends and groups. So this is all about how you connect with friends and how you associate with groups, your identity within them. With Jupiter, you know, this could also show making a charitable contribution to a group or helping out a friend in need. So you're feeling benevolent, generous, optimistic. So this full moon is filled with good feeling and harmony for you, and lots of pleasant opportunities again for romance and fun. So on the 19th, we've got a bit of a tricky aspect between Mars and Saturn. Mars is in your 7th house, squaring Saturn in the 4th, so this can show some conflict and frustration, particularly with family members or a partner. You could find that your efforts are being blocked by circumstances or other people. And, you know, so this one can have you feeling a little bit discouraged. So conflict in partnerships, frustration, feeling hemmed in. So just keep your head down and proceed slowly and cautiously. So on the 20th, the Sun goes into your 6th house, and this is very different to having the Sun in your 5th house. The 6th is all about managing duties and responsibilities. So after you've had a lot of fun in the first 3 weeks, the last week of the month is all about those duties, responsibilities. The 6th is that house of work and health. So this is a very good placement, of course, for starting new exercise and diet regimes, for being more organized and efficient, generally speaking. So with the Sun in the 6th, one has to be a little bit more conscientious about your duties to other people, particularly employers or employees. But because it's a house of service, the Sun here, you can really offer excellent service at this time. So good for clearing the decks and for organization. So on the 20th, we've got the Venus sextiling Pluto between your 7th and your 5th, and this is very good for intensifying feelings of love and closeness with a significant partner. So good for bonding, for deepening love ties, for close connection, really for strengthening, intensifying feelings. So these ones stir the soul. It makes you more susceptible to beauty, and for you it's a very romantic placement between the 5th and the 7th house. So use this aspect to really deepen your connection to somebody close and near and dear to you. So on the 23rd, we've got Mercury sextiling Neptune between your 5th and your 7th house, and this is very good for stimulating the imagination, for making you more receptive, intuitive. So good for fantasizing and, you know, reveries, especially romantic. And for you, this is going to be good for, again, having romantic encounters that are, you know, where you kind of shoot the breeze with somebody, you know, talk about lighthearted topics. It's good for subtle insights and for intuitive perceptions. So another good one for bonding. And so on the 27th, we've got something that's quite different. It's Venus squaring Saturn in between the 7th and the 4th houses. And when Venus and Saturn come together in a hard aspect like this, It can make one be a little bit more cool and detached. You know, perhaps you feel you've been investing more into a relationship, particularly with a family member, than what you've been getting out. So, you know, it could be conflict or just cooling off with an older family member. So with this, you tend to take a step back. You're a little bit cool, analytical, reserved, and you know, you're kind of looking at the give and take in a more clinical and detached way. So just take a step back and pause and review. So the new moon is going to be in that 6th house, which is very good for starting diets and exercise plans and for implementing things. It's good for work and service, and you know, so goals and objectives around work, service, health, and exercise. These are things that you can formulate, get off the ground and run with it this time. So use the 2 weeks following the new moon to implement these things. So on the 29th, we've got Mercury conjuncting Pluto in the 5th house, and this is good for research and investigating. So if you're involved with a creative project, it can help you kind of sort things out. It makes you a little bit more mentally agile. So intensifies things. So if you're threshing things out with a loved one, you may find yourself taking yourself a little bit too seriously. So use this shrewd analysis rather for the investigative and research potential that it has, especially with personal business. So on the 31st, Mercury squares Uranus between the 5th and the 8th, and this again could show some, you know, excess mental energy. When Mercury and Uranus come together, we tend to yet again be more accident prone, so be a little bit more careful. You know, you can find yourself looking for excitement and mental stimulation, but also sometimes you're just feeling a bit nervous and scattered, and you know, it's time to take a step back and just be a little bit more careful, especially, as I said, with accidents, being more liable at this time. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this forecast, please like and subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful January.